So it's week 31 in the Barclays Premier League. A restricted programme this week because of FA Cup quarterfinals. Only 5 games, 3 on Saturday and 2 on Sunday. The first of Saturday's games then, we're at the London Stadium. West Ham at home to Huddersfield. Main team news, Arnautovic was back in the starting line for the Hammers. Chico Hernandez is back on the bench. Early chance for Antonio for the Hammers, and in the early stages West Ham on top. Following a free kick, Lanzini was tripped by Rowe in the penalty box, and the reliable Noble stepped up to put the Hammers 1 up from the penalty spot. But Huddersfield, looking buoyant, rallied, and from a corner by Moy, Bakuna headed in the equaliser on 17 minutes. So the lead only a couple of minutes. And then on 30, Grant swept in a second after a scruffy cross from the left following a free kick. Huddersfield went into the break 2-1 up, and a shot was on the cards. Into the second half then, and nice shot from Bakuna forced a good save from Fabianski. And then on 65 minutes, a speculative effort from Grant from just outside the area squeezed in the top corner, and the unimaginable had happened. West Ham were trailing by 3-1 to bottom club Huddersfield. The coach was getting very animated, but the comeback was full steam ahead, and on 75 minutes, Ogbonna soared above everyone to head in a Creswell corner to pull it back to 3-2. And then from then on, it was all West Ham. Hernandez, get it right, had come on as a sub, and 84 minutes, his diving header hit the corner of the net from a nice cross by Nasri. Huddersfield amazingly had a golden chance on full time to go ahead again, but they made a mess of it, and then on 94 minutes Hernandez dinked in a cross with his head, which went over the keeper into the back of the net, and that was from Anderson's corner. And amazingly, the Hammers had turned it round and won the match by 4-3. Burnley at home to Leicester then. And the team news, Goodmanson was in for Hendrick. Otherwise, times much the same as they were last week. Early pressure from the Foxes, and then out of the blue, a breakaway for Burnley, and Goodmanson was grabbed by Maguire. He'd beaten Maguire for pace, and as he was the last man, Oliver, the referee, showed a red card, and Leicester were down to 10 men. That was on 7 minutes. The free kick that followed led to Goodmanson hitting the bar. So the Foxes having to go 80 plus minutes with 10 men. However, good work by Maddison led to a free kick, and he jumped up to take the kick, and he bent it beautifully round the wall, and it was 1-0. That was 10 minutes on the clock. Bardi worked Heaton later on, but as we were getting near the break, Burnley's McNeil connected with a short pass from the left, and his shot went in the right corner to level things up 1 each. Into the second half, and Burnley had a couple of penalty claims turned down by the referee. The first one was the second one looked a clear handball from Morgan, who had been brought on following the red card to Maguire. And the second one was Ndidi on Taylor. But as I say, they were both chalked off. And so we then got to added time. And Morgan, who probably would have got a red card himself for that handball, popped up at the other end to head in a deflected cross by Tillmans, and Leicester had stolen the 3 points. So final score, Burnley 1, Leicester 2, and Brendan Rodgers absolutely delighted. Third match on Saturday then, Bournemouth at home to Newcastle. Windy, blustery conditions down on the south coast. The early effort from Fraser for the home side, which hit a post, but that was about the extent of the action in the first half until we got into stoppage time. And Newcastle, from a breakaway, Almiroff was taken out and by Ibe, and from the free kick, Rondon from outside the box clips the ball over the wall, and it hits the left corner, and Newcastle go in at the break 1-up. Second half then, Cherry's on the front foot, as you could imagine. And Ake was pulled back by a defender in the box, and King stepped up to level the match at 1 each. After that, Wilson had a header frantically cleared off the line. And then on 81 minutes, with Bournemouth definitely having the better of things, King got his second after good work from Solanke. He connected with a precise effort that hit the corner. So we were well into stoppage time now, and Newcastle showing a sort of resilience that has been missing in previous seasons. But they kept going, and on 94 minutes, Ritchie snatched an equaliser with a sweet volley. So the match ended 2-2. Benitez was delighted, but Eddie Howe not quite so much. So the final score at the Liberty was Bournemouth 2, Newcastle 2. Sunday's matches then. First one, Fulham at home to Liverpool. Liverpool, of course, euphoric after that win in Munich. But they were starting very cautiously, biding their time. However, they had the first chance. Robertson managed to get to the byline, the first of many, but his cross was poor and it was easily gathered by Rico. That pattern was established, though, with a lot of ball going down that left-hand side of Liverpool's. Lallana was retained and he continued to look impressive, functioning just behind the front three. 15 minutes and the pattern of play was well established, with Liverpool controlling possession and trying to prize open a real clear-cut chance. Fulham were relying very much on a break. 25 minutes and some beautiful football by Liverpool. It reminded me of a knife cutting through butter as they linked up. Mane cut in, and his diagonal ball went to Firmino, who went to the byline and pulled it back, and Mane had anticipated the move and moved into the space, and when the ball arrived at his feet, it was 1-0. A lovely goal, sort of created on the training ground, I felt, and Fulham really struggling to get in touch or make any challenge. 1-0 to Liverpool then. After that, Barbel managed to beat Arnold on the right flank, but his pass went into the penalty area, but There was no teammate to make anything of it. We reached the break then, it was 1-0 to the Scousers, and Liverpool totally on top. Second half, well, it was more of the same after the break, really. A series of half chances, for many of them for Salah, but he's lost a little bit of confidence, hasn't scored in 6 games, and it showed. The bar did rescue Fulham, and they also got some good blocks in. And of course, poor finishing by Liverpool. It meant that it remained 1-0. On 63 minutes, a rare chance for Fulham, but the goal was disallowed for offside. And then 73 minutes, absolute howler from Van Dijk, as his attempt to pass the ball back to Alisson wasn't hard enough, and Babel was in there causing a bit of havoc, and the two of them, Van Dijk and Alisson, got in a right old mess, and Babel managed to collect the ball to level it 1-1. 76 minutes again, and on 79 Salah had a couple of efforts, but by his standards they were rather meek, and but then on the 80th minute, Rico, following a challenge with Salah, pulled him back, and the referee pointed to the penalty spot. That was, it pulled Mane back, actually, not Salah. Salah set up Mane, and Rico pulled back Mane inside the box, and Milner, who had been put on as a sub, scored the penalty to make it 2-1. Wijnaldum should have made it 3-5 minutes later, and another poor effort from Salah on 86 minutes summed up his night. But as it turned out, it didn't make much difference. Liverpool had got to the finish line. They went back to the top of the table. They won this game by 2-1. Last game of the Sunday's matches at Goodison Park, Everton at home to Chelsea. Team news: Mina was in at the back for Everton, replacing Zuma, who was ineligible because Chelsea are his parent club. First half, well, Chelsea on top. 5 minutes, Hazard moving sweetly into the penalty area, and his effort forced a save from Pickford, who pushed it wide. And a minute later, Hazard, he does glide around the penalty box. His shot from just outside the box hit a post. And a little later, Higuain had a scuff shot which was cleared off the line. 19 minutes by Chelsea, well on top, but nothing to show for it. A nice interchange, and your Jorginho shot, again held by Pickford. And then 2 more efforts before the break involving Pedro. First effort on 41 went just wide, and then a couple of minutes later, Pedro did get the ball in the net, but it was ruled offside. So got to the half-time break, and Everton were lucky that it was goalless. Don't know what Marco Silva said at the break, but it certainly had an impact, because in the second half, Everton were a completely different animal. 1 minute in, a first real chance when Gomez, good work by him, forced a good save from Kepa from 30 yards. Then a couple of minutes later, Sigurdsson on the ball. His pass was headed goalwards by Calvert-Lewin. Kepa managed to get his hands to it, but it went rebounded out to Richarlison, who headed it in, and that was 1-0 Toffees. Response from Chelsea on 59, Higuain's shot forced Pickford to turn it around the post. But then on 70 minutes, a bit of a mix-up. Alonso managed to clip Richarlison. It was very, very soft. The referee awarded a penalty. Sigurdsson stepped up, but Kepa saved the pen. But Sigurdsson, following up, managed to put it beyond the keeper, 2-0. Walcott should have made it 3 on 79, but it brought out a good save from Kepa. There was a late chance for Giroud on 93, but his header was cleared away. So Everton managed to get the win 2-0, but Chelsea will consider themselves pretty unlucky. But anyway, that's what football does to you. Final score then, Everton 2, Chelsea 0. Now we also had some FA Cup quarter-finals, so I'm going to briefly go through those. The first on Saturday was at Vicarage Road. So Watford at home to Palace. Palace were without Zaha, and they really did miss him. Watford opened the scoring on 27 minutes, and they certainly had the better of the first half, going in 1-up. Palace up their game a little bit, and on 62 minutes Batshuayi equalised, but Watford then found another gear, and Gray got the winner on 79 minutes to put Watford into the semi-finals. Then the second clash at the Liberty Stadium, Swansea at home to Manchester City. Well, we were all expecting a rout by City, but it didn't work out like that. They gave away a penalty on 20 minutes and Grimes converted, and then amazingly on 29, Selena finished off a great move by Swansea, and remarkably they were 2-up. They went to the break on the same scoreline, but the second half, well, City showed their class. 69 minutes, Bernardo Silva pulled it back. Then Aguero and Sterling, who had come on as subs, but Aguero managed to convert a penalty following a challenge on Sterling. It was a very soft challenge, to be honest. And the goal was credited as an own goal to the Swansea keeper. Aguero's penalty hit the post and then went in off the keeper. But that Argentinian manages to come up with crucial goals, and on 86 minutes he grabbed the winner with a neat header. And so Manchester City had taken the game 3-2. The third match on Saturday was Wolves at home to Man United. I saw the highlights of this game, and Man U looked a shadow of their usual selves. Of course, their game against since Solskjaer has been there, they've been rampant, but they look nothing like that. And Wolves took the game to them, and they were pretty unlucky, Wolves, not to be ahead at the break. But in the second half, their class paid, and it was the double act of Jimenez and Jota who got 2 goals on 70 and 76 minutes to deservedly 2-0. Rashford got a consolation in stoppage time, but it flattered United. Wolves were good value, and they are now in the semi-finals. The last of the quarter-finals was on Sunday at the Den. Millwall at home to Brighton. Dreadful weather conditions here, and a pretty poor first half, but things livened up in the second, and Millwall looking much more aggressive, much more urgent, decisive. They went 2 goals up, goals by Pearce on 70 and O'Brien on 79, and it was all looking dandy for them. And then on 88 minutes, Locadia, with some a neat turn in the box, brought it back to 2-1. And then in the 5th extra minute of added time, Solly March hit a speculative cross which was completely misjudged by the Millwall keeper, and it floated into the top corner to make it 2-2, which took us into extra time. No extra goals in extra time, so we came to the dreaded penalty shootout, and it was very tense and exciting. But eventually Brighton prevailed, winning the shootout 4-3. So the semi-finals of the FA Cup, both matches played at Wembley, of course, will involve Watford, Wolves, Manchester City and Brighton. Okay, that's your lot for this week. Next week it's the international break, so we'll be back with Premier League in 2 weeks' time.